Good afternoon. This is Dr. David. Welcome to the Fresh Start with Dr. David podcast. I'm so glad to have you back. This is one of my favorite times of the year. It's fall. I know for a lot of people, different seasons bring different energies. And if you know anything about me and you know anything about my podcast, you know that I believe in the energy of the seasons. I think the seasons represent cycles of energy, cycles of life. And so, as you know, during the fall time of the year is when the leaves fall and the trees shed their branches, and it's the harvest season. So everything about the fall is about orange and all these kind of things and just kind of the cycle of life. And so one of the things that I always try to impart to my clients as well as the people who listen to my show is that try to tap into the energy of the season. And as you know, this is the season of harvest. If you're Jewish like me, it's also the time of Rosh Hashanah, which is the new year. So it makes so much sense that so many things, so in so many different cultures, not just in Jewish culture, not just in Judaism, but in so many cultures, things restart this time of the year. And I think it's just kind of in sync with the energy of the planet and our relationship with the sun. And so do what you can. And if you would like to get more in touch with the seasons and with your energy, synchronizing with the seasons, call my office and I'll tell you about some courses that help you do that. So without further ado, welcome back to the Fresh Start with Dr. David podcast. As you know, I believe that every day, every minute, every week, every month, every year is a time for a fresh start. You don't have to wait till Rosh Hashanah to get a fresh start. You don't have to wait to New Year's Eve or the New Year or your birthday or Christmas or any other season to have a fresh start. Those are fresh starts that are designed and set by society. You get to create your own fresh start every single day. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast, to help give others and myself a fresh start. So without further ado, I am so excited about introducing my guest today. She does such great things, and she's from a country that I had the honor and privilege of being welcomed by when I was studying law before I went to medical school. And that is the country of Holland, also known as the Netherlands. So without further ado, I'm so happy to introduce my special expert guest for today's episode, Paula van der Werff. Hey, Paula, welcome.
Thank you, David. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So let me get one thing straight. Even though I speak a little bit of Dutch, I'm very rusty. It was over 2 decades ago that I was in Holland. Make sure or let me know exactly how I pronounce your full name, just so my listeners know when they visit your website how your name is pronounced, if you would.
Well, in Holland, we pronounce it as Paula van der Werff.
Okay. Van der Werff.
And that doesn't help your audience very much because then they would spell it very differently.
True. But at least
the things they did to my name was always amazing.
Oh my God. So, well, with that, I'll try to stick with Paula. That way I'm not the person who messes it up. So welcome, Paula. Oh my God, I'm so excited to have you. So if you would allow me, I'm going to share a little bit about what I know about you, because when you were introduced to me as a potential guest, I was really, really, really impressed. And I like to let my audience know a little bit about my guests before we start conversing about things. And then after I share a little bit, if you want to add anything to that, or you want to add any recent things or any things that I left off there, feel free to do that. But let me tell you guys, Paula van der Werff, a pioneering psychologist and celebrated Psych-K facilitator. And she's going to explain to you what that is later on and the impact that it has and the insight and transformative power that it has. She has made remarkable strides in transforming the field of mental health and personal development. And as many of you guys know, I see those things together. I think personal development enhances mental health, and I think mental health also enhances personal and professional development, for that matter. With an illustrious educational background, including a Master of Arts in Social Psychology from Harvard University and a Master of Science in Clinical Psychology from Leiden University, which is in Holland, Paula has continuously pushed the boundaries of traditional psychology. And I love that. And as many of you guys know, When you push boundaries and you push comfort zones, that allows growth to occur. Paula's transformative approach to well-being was catalyzed by her own personal experiences and the profound realization that real change begins from within. In 2005, Paula founded her practice, focusing on innovative methods that facilitate internal change, leading to substantial, sustainable shifts in mindset and well-being. Her discovery of Psych-K, a method praised for its simplicity and its effectiveness, marked a turning point in her career. This technique has enabled her to help individuals swiftly transition from limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs, enhancing their quality of life, and I'm guessing the quality of their thoughts as well. Dedicated to spreading the knowledge of Psych-K, Paula has successfully trained over 1,500 facilitators, not students, facilitators, since 2015 through her workshops. These workshops not only equip practitioners with powerful tools for change, but also focus on personal efficacy and the development of one's own talents, right? Additionally, Paula is a published author with works aimed at demystifying Psych-K for a broad audience, making complex concepts accessible to everyone. She offers a wealth of knowledge in the interplay between mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And she's an expert in topics and concepts like breaking the cycle of traditional therapy and new mental health and wellness approaches, in personal transformation and strengthening or growing one's personal journey, and also cultivating emotional and cognitive autonomy. And so with that, I reintroduce Paula. Paula, it's such a great privilege to have you today. Is there anything else that I mentioned and I missed out in the introduction of you just a second ago, or no?
I think you did a beautiful job. And as you know, we in Holland do not like to toot our own horn too much. We don't do that
Right.
as it's normal in the US to do that.
True.
The only thing I would like to add is that we do not say Psych-K,
Okay.
but you can just say Psych-K, and that makes it easier.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay.
And I am a Psych-K facilitator, and I'm also a Psych-K instructor. So I teach the process, the method. I teach it to other coaches and also people who are interested in personal development.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yep. And I believed, I think I knew that Psych-K was pronounced Psych-K, but just because I'm hoping that some people are looking it up as we talk, I tried to say it the way that somebody might look it up, PSYCH-K, but Psych-K is how I'll refer to it. Just know that if you're listening and you want to look up things, and we'll be sharing where you can find Paula and learn about her expertise in these areas at the end anyway. But if you want to look up Psych-K, you're welcome to do that. Okay. So that brings us to my very first question. So we've been using the term Psych-K for the past couple of minutes, but for a lot of people that might not mean a lot. And as you know, in the world that we live in, mental health, personal achievement, personal development, personal transformation, things like that aren't necessarily the most talked about things, especially in American culture on a daily basis. So if you would tell us a little bit about, number one, the journey, if you'd like to share that, or your experiences that led you to Psych-K, and also tell us what exactly is Psych-K?
Okay, so I can interweave that with my personal journey to Psych-K.
Yes.
As you already mentioned, I founded my own practice in 2005, and I was trained as occupational health psychologist. So I had a lot of people from organizations and that I was helping that were referred to me by their human resources department, or they found them myself, but they were paid very often by their employer, which is, of course, wonderful that they care about their employees' mental health. And I had one client, and she was the typical perfect client, reflective, doing her homework, everything as it should be. She had a very clear question she wanted to be helped with, and that was the higher she climbed the career ladder, the more she was afraid to be exposed as a fraud. So a clear question. We worked on that question. I mean, we had 7 sessions and my sessions are 90 minutes. So 7 times 90 minutes, quite a lot of minutes. And the last session, there was stress at work, as he says, I'm still afraid to be exposed as a fraud. And at that moment, I felt I was exposed as a fraud. Because here I am pretending to be somebody who is capable of helping somebody else. And clearly, in the end, I had not succeeded because I felt responsible for her results, which nowadays I would not feel anymore. But then I felt responsible for her results. And I did not succeed. So I went in my own personal existential crisis about whether I should go do something else and why be a psychologist, why I think that I could be of value to other people. And then in the evening, I had a call with a Swedish girlfriend. And I was telling her about my problems. And she said, Bruce Lipton says Psych-K works. Have you heard of Bruce Lipton?
Oh my God, I love Bruce Lipton. I love Dr. Bruce Lipton. Yeah, I have his book, The Biology of Belief. It's one of my favorite books.
Right. So I had heard of Dr. Bruce Lipton as well. And I read his book, The Biology of Belief, and I loved his book, The Biology of Belief. And then she said the following. She said, Bruce Lipton says Psych-K works. So I asked her, what's Psych-K then? And then she says, I don't know. So I still think it's extremely funny that she recommended me something that she didn't know herself what it was.
Yeah.
And then I looked it up, Psych-K, and there was somebody in the Netherlands who was doing Psych-K. And then there was something totally unbelievable on the website. And on the website there it said that in 5 minutes, you could transform a limiting belief in a supportive belief.
Wow.
And here I had been working with a limiting belief. To be afraid to be exposed as a fraud is basically a limiting belief.
Yeah.
And we did not succeed. And now there is this website that says you can do this in 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Well, I, of course, found that totally unbelievable.
Right.
I thought they do not have a scientific background. They just, they just say something to attract people.
Yeah.
It's a fraud. It cannot be true.
Absolutely.
And then I thought, but Bruce Lipton says it's true. And then I admire Bruce Lipton. So there must be something to it. Maybe it's not 5 minutes. That's exaggeration, of course.
Right.
But maybe it's an hour. That would already be beautiful, right?
Absolutely.
So I went to the workshop. And then, and there I found out that I have to write something down. And there I discovered that we psychologists, on the first day of the 3-day workshop, I already found out that we psychologists did not understand how mind change works. I mean, what I've been taught is that we need to stir in the past. And we have to get a comprehensive overview of everything that has happened in the past that has led up to the disastrous present. And then we can shine new lights on this disastrous past, and we can help our clients, teach them effective coping strategies. But that's basically the best they can do. They must learn to live with it and to learn how to cope with what they have. And now I had learned a process that was totally different. I mean, with this process, I changed limiting beliefs on the subconscious level truly in 5 minutes. So a belief of I'm not good enough, I changed to I am good enough in 5 minutes. And it felt totally different. The most important belief I did during my basic workshop was I love myself with all my heart. And I didn't even think of that myself. There was another participant who wanted to do that. But I was already thinking, I love myself. It's already a big deal with all my heart. That's too much, But it was wonderful. And because I was able to change all these beliefs within myself, my learning curve became exponential. It was unbelievable how that worked, because now I was not living in a hostile world anymore. Before that, I was living in a quite hostile world. All those people were out to get me and to be critical of me. I don't believe that anymore. And now if people give me so-called critical information, I think, that's interesting. Maybe there's something there. Also, sometimes I think, maybe that's a projection from you and I can leave it there. But it helps me learn instead of getting prickly and defensive and keeping it outside of myself.
Right.
So I have taken on a completely different view of how mind change worked than I have learned in my university days. And even worse, I think now that what I have learned during my studies was detrimental, because everything you give attention to grows. And I was giving a lot of attention to that what was negative, and that was what not working, and people would get into this negative vibe.
Yes.
And it's hard to get out of that and do positive change from this negative vibe.
Yes.
So what you want is to get people to, okay, here's where we start. We do start here, but we do not have to explore this extensively, but we do start here. And when you're here, then we say, what do you want instead? So the miracle question in Psych-K is, what do you want instead? And with that, we make an inspirational goal statement, or we do an exercise for the transformation of the perception of stress. And then you transform it at the subconscious level. And why is that important? Because the insight-giving psychology is just staying on the conscious level.
Yes.
It doesn't change your subconscious level.
Right.
And it's the subconscious level that has all our programs. Good programs, but also our fear programs.
Yes.
And as long as our fear programs are running, it's running. And what you need is just like with a computer, replace it with a different computer. And it is as easy as doing that in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I love that.
But it's totally amazing.
No, I love that, and let me kind of just, before we move on to some of the topics that I'm totally curious and fascinated about, let me just kind of share with you and with the audience kind of an experience that I had when I was at university. When I was in college, I studied a lot. I took a heavy load of classes. I was pre-med, I was pre-law. I triple majored in biology, philosophy, and psychology. I double minored in chemistry and sociology. And I was always busy, and I also worked full time. And so I had the privilege of working at the largest chain of psychiatric hospitals in America at that time, which was called Charter Hospital. And they had a famous commercial that basically made them the top psychiatric hospital. And it was basically this message: if you don't get help at Charter, get help somewhere. So their whole marketing thing was, even if you don't choose us, choose something, right? Even though in reality, they wanted you to choose them, of course. But at the age of 21, I caught chickenpox working there. And unbeknownst to me, I'd never really, really had it fully as a child. I had been exposed to it, but I didn't really have it. So for whatever reason. And so I got it. And when you get chickenpox as an adult, it's really, really tough. You can die from it. And so, hear all these crazy things happening to me, and I'm a pre-med student, and I'm looking at all these skin lesions and my face, and every part of me is breaking out. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? You know what I mean? And, I happen to be taking immunology and and other things at that time, microbiology. So I'm trying to guess what it is and all this kind of things. And ended up going to the hospital, the ER, and some interns like, oh my God, this looks like syphilis. And then I freak out. I'm like, oh my God, how did I get syphilis? That's I'm not even active. How could that happen? And then finally on Christmas Day, I was so sick, my parents took me back to the hospital, and an experienced female internist saw me for 2 minutes, and she said, this is chickenpox. You never had it fully as a child. That's what this is. And she knew exactly what it was. And that was the end of it. But because of the way that I looked, and it wasn't pretty, let me tell you, those lesions, I said, well, this is Christmas break. What can I do with my time? I don't want to go out anywhere. I don't want to be around people. I don't want people to see me. There's nothing I can do about that. Why don't I invest in my own personal development? And I had heard about John Grinder and Richard Bandler, and about NLP, and about how you can change limiting beliefs, and about how you can change through visual images how you think and feel about the world. And I invested in that, and it made the biggest difference in my life, because it was the first time in my life where I challenged limiting beliefs that I had. And so I love the fact that you bring expertise in that, and that's part of the ethos of where some of your beliefs come from, is changing limiting beliefs. And a lot of people, as you kind of alluded to, walk around with all these limiting beliefs that shape every action and reaction that they have, and they have no clue that those limiting beliefs are originating not just from their conscious mind, but from their subconscious mind, which is very Freudian, in my opinion, very Freudian and very Lacanian and very Ericksonian, to go back to those programs. And one of the things that I try to focus on with my clients is the subconscious mind, and how you have all these kind of automated machine learning kind of based responses to things in life. And they're all based off of preconceived notions and things that you think are set. But a lot of those things that you think are set, they were set for you at the age of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. And so your whole view and your whole system of reacting to the world is based off of a 6, a 7, or an 8-year-old. And that's very, very limiting.
Totally agree. Yes. Most psychological theories say that you write your life script in the first 7 years of life.
Yes.
And that means that you do not write it, but it's written for you.
Yes, absolutely. Which is why the background and the environment and all the things that Dr. Bruce Lipton brings up in his book, The Biology of Belief, why that stuff makes so much sense. Because you realize that when genes get turned on or genes get turned off, it facilitates future processes, including the thoughts and reactions that help shape the lives we live for the rest of our existence. So let's talk about some of the things that you have expertise in. So one of the things that you talk about is how to break the cycle of traditional therapy. And you talked a little bit about that before, because of our medicalized system and how it labels everything, and it focuses so much on the labels or symptoms and not as much on the internal workings or the operating system, if you would, underneath that. What are some of the ways, in your opinion, that we can break through some of those traditional cycles?
Well, traditional psychology has to go through a checklist, basically,
Yes.
to match up the person with the disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get a label. And of course, nobody fits the label totally. But once you've given people a label, they will make up the difference, and they will start to live up to it, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's basically a nocebo message, right? You're giving people a nocebo message. You're saying okay, you're a borderline, so now you have this and this and this and this. And then they're going to live up to that, and it only goes downhill from there. And it isn't even true. So in Psych-K, we do not look at that. We never give, and let me also correct, I mean, Psych-K is not my method. It was originated with Rob Williams, and he's an American, and it's an international organization that we're having, and there are Psych-K instructors all over the world. So now I'm from the Netherlands, but also in the United States, there are Psych-K instructors where you can take courses with, and facilitators if you start to be interested in this. So where was I? What was I going to say?
You were talking about Psych-K and how that integrates into things. And it brings us back to the question I asked earlier about what exactly is Psych-K?
So in Psych-K, we never have a preset list we are going to match the person to.
Right.
We will always follow the person, and we will always follow a person's personal history, in the sense that if I do a belief change about I'm good enough, what I'm changing is probably different than what you are doing when you're doing the same belief statement, I am good enough, because you have a different history leading up to that statement. Now, in Psych-K, we do not have to know exactly what that history is, because the beauty is that we instruct your subconscious mind to do the change. And my subconscious mind gets instructed to do the change. And the subconscious mind knows much better all the types of associations that are made for us to feel not good enough.
Yes.
And in the old methods, I mean, you were going to free associate, or you're going to ask lots of questions to find out what exactly made the person not feeling good enough. While in Psych-K, we only have to know that you feel not good enough.
Right.
What do you want to do instead? I feel that I am good enough. And you take that as a statement. You do a little exercise, and it's really a little exercise. And now it becomes integrated within your system. And it's really a miracle when these things happen. I've had people, and of course with fears and phobias, it's the easiest to see how quickly it works. I've had people that were afraid of the elevator. They come in, and I used to work in an office where there was an elevator. So of course they took the stairs because they were afraid of the elevator. And after a 5-minute change, they were not afraid of the elevator. So I say, okay, the proof is in the pudding. Let's go to the elevator and see if you're now really capable of taking the elevator. And they would. And they would be amazed how easy it was to change that kind of fear. I mean, the fear of flying, we in Holland, we have very expensive 3-day courses to help you over the fear of flying.
Really?
This is also very easy to change. These are not complex fears.
I had no idea that was such a big thing in Holland. I never knew that. The fear of flying was, oh my God, wow.
Yeah.
What other?
So a lot of things that I thought were very hard and difficult turned out not to be hard and difficult. And nowadays, I have very different sessions than I used to have before I had Psych-K. And in Holland, we have something that is called proper conduct as a psychologist, right? You're not supposed to hug your clients. You give a harm, and that's how you do it. But now with Psych-K, I mean, if somebody leaves, they all want to hug me. So they ask me, can I hug you? Which is not the normal thing to do because we have this proper distance kind of thing.
Right.
But of course, I want to hug them because this is real warm personal contact. But it's such a difference because before that, nobody ever wanted to hug me. And now they always want to hug me because there is such a different change process going on that just calls for that so much more. And it's not like I initiated. My clients initiate that. And it's so different. And the best thing is, I know that my client is responsible for their own transformation. I cannot do that transformation for them. The only thing I can do is facilitate the process. And that I do with all my heart and with all my expertise. But I know they're the ones who are changing. And if they're not succeeding, I don't feel bad anymore.
Right.
You know, I will just say, well, what else can we do? So it's such a different way of working. And there is this big problem in the Netherlands, at least, of burnout of therapists. Because they work too hard. They want to do the change. They do not realize they cannot do that. They cannot change the other person. The only thing they can do is help the other person make the change themselves. But if you do not have the proper methodology, it becomes very difficult. Because before I had Psych-K, and I had done a lot of things. I've done NLP, I've done transactional analysis, I have systemic work, constellation. I've done many things on top of all the regular psychology things like cognitive behavioral therapy and all that kind of stuff. And it never got those changes. But with Psych-K, it became an easy, wonderful, transformative process. So I used to have very rarely still somebody who wanted to have a transactional analysis session or something. And I say, no, I don't do that anymore. I want to spend my time facilitating true change. This is what I want to do. I do not want to have only talking sessions anymore.
Right. No, I love that. And, you know, one of the things I love to look at the ethos of things, the origins of things. And one of the things that I do with a lot of my clients, and I try to walk them, I have a whiteboard in my conference room that I use, and I walk through clients through different things that they may have trouble or that may be challenging in terms of visualizing. And so we'll draw it out and they can help me or I can do it however we end up. And basically what I introduce to people is the concept of working backwards, which kind of reminds me of what you just said about working from not where I am not good enough and where does that come from, but working from I am good enough and working backwards from there. And a lot of times I do that with my clients. We work backwards from where they want to be to where they are. And I love that approach because it takes away the the focus, right? Or, the shining of the light on why and whose fault is it and who caused this and all those kind of things. And it focuses on, well, what do you want, in the end? And I totally like that. The other thing that I really, really like about it is the fact that a part of your lexicon is facilitator. And one of the ways that I think of myself with the work that I do with my clients is I'm just a facilitator. I'm a conduit. I'm not the reason why you're changing. You are the reason why you're changing. All I'm doing is helping to allow that to happen. And so I love that approach of facilitation because you're taking the focus off of blame or success based on how the client does and putting it on yourself because so many people do. I mean, I know you mentioned in Holland, burnout, it's a high thing. Burnout's a huge thing in America too. And there are a lot of workshops and retreats that they do for psychologists, for attorneys, for doctors, for, every teachers who are burned out. I mean, people are burned out. They're exhausted. But a lot of times, part of what they do, especially since COVID, when people are working from home now, is they take it at home. One of the reasons why I do not work from home, I'm at my office right now. I've been in my offices throughout COVID. I don't work well from home. It's because I have a very strict separation between work and personal, And so, when I leave my office, it's left here and I don't take it home. But I love the concept of facilitating a process and looking at yourself as just a facilitator. And I think that also takes some of the ego out of it too, because it's an ego reflexive thing. If you're saying this person is successful because of me, then you're also saying, well, this person is unsuccessful because of me. You've got both sides of the coin. You can't have tails without heads and heads without tails. So I like how that takes the focus off of you and puts it on the relationship and the facilitation of a journey. That brings me to the next topic. And I love this, the power of the inner journey and personal transformation. I'm a big word person. I've always been that way. Vocabulary, the way that words sound, the meaning that they have, I think is always important. If I read something and a term is used over and over, if I don't understand that term, I'm not going to just imply that it doesn't make a difference and that the meaning doesn't matter. I go and look it up. But I love that concept of journey and transformation. And to me, those two terms kind of go together. To me, the journey has a way of transforming who you are, which ultimately usually alters the destinations that you reach at different points. But also your ability to transform will solidify and create the journey that you experience. Tell me a little bit about the power of your inner journey in personal transformation.
Okay. Well, well, I'm wondering where I should start with my inner journey and transformation.
And you don't have to, and let me just rephrase it too. It doesn't have to be about your own inner journey and your personal transformation, but the general inner journey that people have to take in their own transformation. Yeah, I'm sorry. So, yeah.
Right. Yes. Well, with the method of Psych-K, transformation is inevitable. I mean, you will transform. The moment you start transforming your limiting beliefs on the subconscious level, you will transform. And of course, the outside world is a reflection of our inner world.
Yes.
Right? So the moment you start redoing your inner world to your own specifications and not the life script you were sort of saddled up with, but you're going to rewrite your life script as you want it to be. you will find you're going to live in a different world.
Mm.
You will find the power within. There's the only power that we have is the power within. You will find your power within, and with your power within, you will find your choice. What is it that you came here to do? What is it that you love to do? What brings you into flow? And you start believing that you can get it.
Yes.
Right? Because that is what you change. And we have all these kind of beliefs. So, no, I have to stay in this job because of the mortgage. I have to stay in this job because of the pension. And then you start seeing, but this is the only life I've got.
Right.
And this is a playground. Why would I stay in this boring job that has no heart and that sucks the life out of me?
Yeah.
Why do I believe that is true?
Yes.
Especially in the affluent countries where we grew up, right? We have everything.
Absolutely.
But we are brainwashed to think,
yes,
and this is again our beliefs, that we need all this kind of stuff, that we need this all this security, really. Well, in the end, we all die.
Yeah.
And we will not take it with us. And I like to think in the kind of a transformative journey. What is it that you're going to take with you? And I like to believe that we're going to take with us our transformative journey. We are going to take with us our personal development. Maybe it's not true. Maybe there's nothing to take with us. But I like to believe that the inner work I've done, that is something that is beneficial for me now, but is also beneficial in the wider perspective. And I think when we really go to our inner truth and who we really are, we want to be of service to other people. We want to be doing good for the world. This is what we truly want, because it's no fun being like, I take from you and I take from you and I take from you. You get this clenching within yourself as well. That is not healthy for you. It's not good for you.
No.
Well, if you are going out in the world and don't mean surface, like doing things you don't like. I mean, doing things you really, truly love.
Right.
I mean, you were doing this separation between work and home life. I don't have such a strict separation, but I truly love what I do.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. Give me $10 million and I would still be doing what I'm doing, because I love what I'm doing.
Yeah, no. And I totally understand that. For me, it's a little bit different, just because I also do consulting work in forensic and addiction psychiatry. And it uses a different part of my brain from the work that I do with my own clients and my own practices. And so for some things like that, there's shades of gray. Some things you need a separation, other things you don't. I just like that because it works for me, but I totally get that, and that makes sense to me. One of the things that I love to do is use analogies, because I think analogies allow us to tap into the energy that we had as children, where nothing cannot be solved or fixed. There's a certain light and a certain belief that kids have where there aren't obstacles and you can work through anything, and it comes naturally for them. But I think in a lot of ways, the world teaches these self-limiting beliefs that we buy into because they're so entrenched in the systems that we have. One of the analogies that I love to use is one that I remember from childhood. And it's the one, I can't remember if it was a cartoon or what. It may have been a cartoon. And it was basically about this baby elephant that was chained when it was a baby. And then even once it became grown and the chain was so easy for it to break, in its mind, it still couldn't break it because of that. And I look at that. That's the best analogy that I can think of in terms of limiting beliefs. And I think, every once in a while, when I undergo a challenge or come upon an obstacle or dilemma in life, I picture myself as that little elephant chained. And I say, well, you know what? This is the situation, but you're not that baby elephant anymore. You're an adult now. And that chain that used to be something that seemed impossible to overcome and may have been really a tough challenge back then is not the same anymore. And I kind of apply that logic, and I kind of envision that. And it helps me to break through a lot of dilemmas. And I know for specifically in one example, one thing I'll do is I notice a lot of people will come to me, a lot of potential clients will come to me and they'll say, kind of like the phrase, I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy. A lot of people feel like, and to some extent they may be right, that the universe or society conspires against them. And I remember one client came into my office one day, and she really felt like that. She had had several losses. She'd lost her mother. She'd lost a brother. She'd lost her job. She was sick during COVID. All these things happened. And I said to her, what if you change the phrase that the universe conspires against me to the universe and the world and God conspire for my abundance and my empowerment and my success? And she didn't buy into it. And I said, well, you know what? Let's say that out loud a few times. And we said that out loud a few times, and tears just rushed down her eyes. And she had a totally, totally different outlook on things after she left that day. And she was different from that point on. But I found that a lot of times having my clients to take the chance and the risk of saying things that are in opposition, but for their benefit, saying them out loud helps start a transformation.
Right. And the difference to doing that and with Psych-K is that what we aim for is to have a transition on the subconscious level, to really have a transformation there, because just do positive affirmation. And of course, under the influence of Julie Hayes, a lot of people have a lot of experience with positive affirmation, and it hasn't brought them the change they wanted to bring, right? Because just saying it is talking to the cognitive mind. It's talking to the conscious mind. And that's often not enough. What you need is to transform it at the subconscious level. And Psych-K is such a method to very easily transform it on the subconscious level. And that I find is a big difference, right? If somebody is afraid of dogs, and a big trigger was the barking of dogs. So when the dogs bark, you get very, now you can tell yourself you're not afraid of dogs. But the moment that dogs bark, you get the same reaction again. So you really have to transform it at the subconscious level to be able, then the next time the dog barks, nothing happens within you anymore. You stay at peace. I've had so many people say, I've played with a dog for the first time in my life and I enjoyed it. No, and I think that's beautiful.
So that gets me very, very interested and curious about that. So as opposed to saying something out loud or just thinking it, how exactly do you get to the subconscious beliefs and change those? How does that happen? If you don't mind kind of sharing that, how does that happen?
Right. So one of the things that we do in Psych-K within the method, we use muscle testing.
Okay.
So are you familiar with the method of muscle testing?
If you're referring to kind of something that chiropractors do and things like that, where they do a test about your beliefs and they pull your muscle this way or
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So
and it's autonomic,
that is
sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Yeah, so that is a form of muscle testing. Now, there are about 80 modalities already in the world that use muscle testing, and Psych-K is one of them. And why do we use muscle testing? Because normally, as a psychologist, we talk from conscious mind to conscious mind, right? And in the conscious mind, we can totally agree. So I can tell you my credentials, and you can tell me your credentials, and then we totally agree that we are good enough the way we are. We are really having enough diplomas and we are good the way we are, right? We are successful people. We have everything we want.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean our subconscious programming agrees with that.
Absolutely.
And as long as our subconscious programming does not agree with that, it will pop up at all the wrong moments. And it will tell us, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you think you're good enough, but look here, you're not really. And it will make us uncertain. And moreover, it will turn on the wrong inner pharmacy, right?
Yes.
If you read the book from Bruce Lipton, it very clearly shows that if you have limiting beliefs, I'm not good enough, you put on a different inner pharmacy than when you think I'm a winner, I'm good enough. And you want this healthy pharmacy going on within you all the time. So this is, these are very important things to be aware of.
Absolutely.
That is what we need to do and look at.
And so in the work that you do, with Psych-K, part of what you do is you actually go into, so do you actually go into somebody's subconscious mind?
I don't go into somebody's subconscious
Or
mind.
do they go
With
into
the
it?
muscle testing,
Uh-huh.
we can demonstrate, and this is the muscle we use, right? We use the delta muscle in the arm.
Uh-huh.
And then and with that muscle we can decide whether the subconscious mind believes it too. So the conscious mind may believe I'm good enough, but does the subconscious mind believe it too?
Right.
And if the subconscious mind does not believe it, then we have a million times more powerful processor than the conscious mind that is against us, that is working in opposite to what we want. We want to go this way. We want to go to the left, but subconscious mind wants to go to the right. So who will win most of the time? That is our subconscious mind. So what our thing is that we need to do is have to make sure that our subconscious programming is going to be aligned with our conscious wishes, because then everything moves in the same direction. And if that's true, things become easy and things go into a flow. But if you do not do that, then you are all the time, there is this tension within it and this fight within it, and you do not understand why things are hard and why they're not going the way you want it to do. And there is this myth going on that it would be hard to change your beliefs, but it isn't. And you only have to take a workshop and you only have to take one session with a facilitator to find out that this is true.
Mm. So I'm just trying to understand the process. So after you use muscle testing to kind of see if the conscious matches up with the subconscious or vice versa, then what do you do after that? So once you've identified whether that's true or not, what do you do? How do you go from there?
So then we do a little exercise, and for that you have to take the workshop or go to a facilitator.
Okay.
We do a little exercise of about 5 minutes.
Huh.
And then we test again whether now the belief has changed or not. But you need this little exercise. I mean, Bruce Lipton calls it pushing in the record button to record something else on your subconscious than you believed before. And if you push in this, and when you do this exercise, you're pushing the record button, and now you're capable of writing something else in your subconscious. And you immediately feel the difference. You feel the change going on. It's truly amazing to experience. And nothing in my studies prepared me for Psych-K, and that it was possible. And maybe also for this, I would like to share the meaning of Psych-K, because the K stands for key. So Psych-K is the key to your psyche. And for me, it has truly been the key to my psyche to free yourself from your own prison of limiting beliefs. And it's so beautiful when you can do that.
No, I love that. And as I try to picture what you're saying, the muscle testing and where you go from there, it kind of a little bit reminds me of kind of like a breaker switch in your home. You know, I don't know about homes in Holland, but in America, they have usually there's a breaker switch to all the things where electricity leads in your home. And you look at that breaker switch and you can turn things on and off. And then if something happens like a weather or storm or electrical surge or something like that, there'll be a mismatch. And you can see in that breaker switch. So that kind of reminds me of that. Tell me a little bit about Psych-K and what you've learned and experienced in terms of cultivating emotional and cognitive autonomy, and what those are. What is emotional autonomy? What is cognitive autonomy, and how do those relate?
Okay, so people usually think that they have thoughts and they have emotions, and that's who they are. Nothing can be done about it. And with Psych-K, you will learn that there are thoughts and there are emotions, and that you can transform them if you want. So instead of thinking, oh, I have to hide this emotion because this is a really ugly one, you can start to look at it a little bit more from a distance. And then you say, I'm having this emotion, and that's not a very nice one. What do I want instead? And then you train then you change that emotion to another emotion that fits you better for who you are now. So you start to choose who you want to be, thought-wise and autonomy and feeling-wise. And what usually happens is the moment we transform our limiting beliefs and our limiting emotions, a path of love opens up. It just happens because I truly believe that's who we are, but we have covered it up with all this muck, with all this, with all this shit that we then go and uncover. And the moment we do that, then our light comes through, our natural light comes through, and who we truly are. And we believe in Psych-K that who we truly are is spiritual beings with a human experience. And if you get to that level of development, then you do not want to harm other people anymore. Then you do not want to get better at the expense of other people anymore. Why would you want to do that? This is a fellow traveler. This is a fellow spiritual being who also wants the best for himself and for others. So you become autonomous in your thoughts and your emotions because you take full responsibility for them. And you have a process in which you can transform them. And one of the best part is Rob Williams, the originator of Psych-K, and he passed away the 3rd of October, just recently, of 2024. And we are so grateful for him for birthing this method into the world, for bringing it into the world. And he says of Psych-K, it is a method of applied psychology, spirituality, applied spirituality. And why? I mean, most spiritual disciplines will tell you how important it is to make this differentiation between yourself and your thoughts and emotions, right? To become the observer. So this Psych-K does naturally, because every thought I have and I don't like it, I question it and change it. It doesn't throw me anymore. It doesn't make me feel bad because I have this shameful thought. I only think, I'm having this shameful thought. That's interesting. What do I want instead? Right? And also with Psych-K, you do not only have to transform limiting beliefs, you can also go immediately to what you admire and where you want to go. So now you can download the wisdom of the masters immediately within your subconscious mind. So you can really speed up your own spiritual processes. I think it's totally beautiful.
Yeah, so that brings me to a really, really specific question. It's like one of the first thing that comes to my mind. And the reason why is not just because of some of the things that you brought up, but just because of my own experiences. So every once in a while, I'm in an experience either in a social situation or a work situation or something where I recall, I step back and I recall what my prior response was to that type of stimuli, right? And I go, you know what? That's an automatic response. I don't have to be defensive about it. It's not personally directed at me. It probably is more about the person who said it and their mood and things like that. How can I react differently? And then I'll choose a different reaction. But sometimes I've noticed when I do that, and I know when other people have done it too, they feel like it's fake or they feel like they're an imposter. Is that a natural kind of feeling or reaction when you choose a different reaction or you choose a different mood or you choose a different response to a life situation, that it feels fake or you feel like you're an imposter or you feel like you're doing what somebody else would do, maybe not what you would have done? Is that natural?
Before I integrated Psych-K into my practice, I would have been very proud of a client who would have been capable to be able to make in the moment a conscious choice to do different behavior. Right? And then we would have said, you have to do this over and over and over again. And then this new behavior will start to become natural. This is the old psychology way of thinking.
Right.
With Psych-K, you will find that you automatically step into new behavior because your whole subconscious mind is supporting that. And then it feels completely natural. I have had people who were afraid of the elevator, and after one session were not. But by the third session, they were forgotten they had ever been afraid of the elevator.
Wow.
Because they didn't have it anymore.
Wow.
And I had to remind them of that. I said, but remember, you were afraid of the elevator. Oh, that's true. I mean, it's like a toothache. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Right. Wow.
And this is the beauty of this method, because people now have a completely new normal. So they can really start behaving in a different way that is natural for them.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Tell us a little bit about your book. You have a book, right? Is that correct?
Right.
So tell us about the book.
Okay, so it's called Be the Master of Your Mind and Make Your Dreams Come True with Psych-K.
Okay.
And it has a prologue from with Bruce Lipton.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yes, I'm very proud.
I was about to say, that's huge. That is huge.
I am so totally proud of that. Yes. And it was because of Psych-K that my balances that I did, the exercises we do in Psych-K, we call balances. And because of these balances, I dared ask him for it in the first place. Otherwise, I would never have done such a thing. I would have thought of it as such an imposition. So in my book, I write about the Psych-K processes. You will not learn how to do Psych-K. You really need a workshop for that, because we cannot explain that. You really have to practice it.
Right.
The Psych-K workshop is how-to workshop. You know, it tells you how to do it and you're going to practice it. And to do it well, you need the 3-day workshop, but it tells you about Psych-K, and it gives you a lot of different stories about people who have benefited from the Psych-K processes, so they can resonate on it. And you can download my book on my website, and it's not expensive at all. I forgot what it was, €5 or €7.50 or something like that to download it. And then you can read about Psych-K, and if you feel drawn to it, definitely do it. You know, go find a facilitator near you, find a Psych-K workshop near you, and do it, because it will be life changing. I mean, you probably know as well as I, when I was at the university, and that's before you went to university, because I think I'm a bit older than you are. I was taught that the method used was not very important. What was important is the rapport, is the relationship. That was important, through which change works in the client-therapist relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that's not true.
Right.
The Psych-K method is a huge, huge, huge help in doing the transformation and helping you do that. And it is ultimately, of course, the client who does the transformation. That will stay the same. And of course, you need a good relationship, because you do not want to tell another person about yourself if you do not like the other person. So that, of course, is always important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us, Paula, how can so I'm definitely interested. I'm genuinely interested. I want to sign up for a workshop or something like that. How can our listeners, how can they sign up or find out about a Psych-K workshop or retreat or facilitation?
Okay. So I think because your listener base is mostly in the US, right?
Yes.
So they can best go to the website of psychk.com. That is psyck-k.com. This is the international website for my international organization.
Okay.
There you can find all the workshops, including mine. We are giving a few workshops in English, but they are in Europe. So I give one in Vienna. I give my husband, he's also an instructor. He gives one in Stockholm and he gives one in Copenhagen. So there are a few English ones. But in the US, we have US instructors as well. And there is a preferred facilitators list on that website.
Okay.
And you can find people to work with. You can also call us, but then we have to work with a time difference.
Okay.
Right? Because the US and the Netherlands are. Because we can easily work also through Zoom. You do not have to be
that was my next question.
So you can, yes, so you can work through Zoom. That's not a problem.
Okay. So people who are interested in Psych-K, they could do a live in-person workshop or they could do a virtual one. Is that correct?
So if you want to do a workshop, you can also do an online workshop, and then you only work with yourself. Then you will never be able to work with other people,
Okay.
right? Then not through the first workshop anyway. Then you will have to continue first. And if you do a basic workshop, then in person, then you become a facilitator of the Psych-K processes. You can work with yourself because you learn how to facilitate the process with yourself through self-muscle testing, and you learn how to facilitate with other people. When you do the online workshop, you learn how to facilitate with yourself.
Gotcha. That makes so much sense. And tell the listeners and our audience how they can find out more about you, the work that you do, what you offer, your wisdom. Where can they find you online, Paula?
So they can find me on my website, and that is www.thewerff.net. And
Okay.
Werff is DEWER,
Uh-huh.
Ferdinand, so FF.
Okay, so that's www.d as in dog, E as in effort, W as in work, E as in effort, R as in run, F as in fox, F as in fox dot net or dot com?
Net.
Dot net.
Dot net.
Dot net. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys heard
and
that.
that is, if you type that in, you get to the Dutch version of the website. And if you do /en, you get to the English side of the website.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because when I was doing some research about you and I found your LinkedIn page, I noticed it was all in Dutch. And I was like, okay, this is an opportunity that the universe is giving me to brush up on my Dutch. So I did. I remembered a lot of things. So I was like, oh, schrijven. Oh, okay, this. Okay. Cool. So that is so awesome. Oh my God. Thank you so much for being here today, Paula. I am definitely interested in Psych-K. I believe in methods. I believe in methodology. I believe that the methods matter. I do believe that the motive matters too. And to me, that's where those things match up is the motive and the method. And, an example of that is in America, our healthcare system is based off of capitalism and profit and money. And I always say the outcomes that you get are based upon where you start. You go to the root. And I think just like Psych-K tries to get to the root of beliefs, I think the outcomes that you get in healthcare are directly based upon the motive. So if the motive for healthcare in this country begins with how much money that we can make, collecting as much in premium dollars and dishing out as little in services in order to maximize profit for shareholders, you're not going to get great outcomes for patients. You're going to get great outcomes financially, but not for patients. And I think that's true with a lot of different things. I think it goes back to the method, but I think it goes back to the motive as well. So I love this. I'm so excited. I'm definitely going to do the training, whether I do it in person. That would give me an excuse to come to Holland to do your workshop. It's been over 2 decades since I've been to Holland, and it's one of the best countries ever, in my opinion. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing that. And tell the listeners again what the name of your book is as well.
So the name of the book is, and you can download it through my website, is Be the Master of Your Mind.
Okay.
And Make Your Dreams Come True with Psych-K.
Nice. Be the master of your mind and make your dreams come true with Psych-K. Awesome. I love it.
And for so many people, it is so natural to watch their diet, to watch their exercise, and they do not think of watching their thoughts and their emotion and changing that. And that is so important because it influences everything
else
in your life. It influences whether you can stick to your diet, whether you can have an exercise regime. I mean, everything.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I wonder that myself and look at some of the way that things work in society and go, it's totally backwards. It should start with looking at how we thought and think and feel, not what's out on the surface. So I love that. You definitely, if you look at a plant, you look at a tree, and you want it to be healthy, you've got to consider the roots. You can't just look at the branches and the leaves. You've got to look at the roots of the tree. So I love that perspective. I love your approach. Thank you so much for being here today. I have one question left that I want to leave my audience with. So many people, especially since COVID-19, I think so many people since COVID-19, I think before COVID-19, people kind of had a sense, even if a false sense of security about who they were and where they were. And I think COVID kind of changed that and made people question it. But there's so many people that I come across who come to me as clients or who come to me in workshops and things like that. And they just say, I feel stuck. I feel stuck and I don't know what to do about it. If someone feels stuck, what do you recommend that they do? What can somebody do if they feel stuck?
I think they should come to a workshop or go to a facilitator, because what we do is question the beliefs that lead you to being stuck.
Yes.
There are beliefs under that, but there is no one fits all. So again, it is, what are your beliefs about you feeling stuck? And we need to change those beliefs so you can flow again. And of course the whole COVID situation, I mean, it was like a war without it being called a war, right?
Yep.
We had to stay at home, and all of a sudden there were all these things that apparently they could do to us.
Right.
And that for me, it was a huge learning time, because I could do all my balances around these beliefs that were popping up. But how can they do this to me?
Yes.
And apparently they could. But the beauty, I think, that came out of the Corona time for me was, I am my own autonomous person, right? I am free and I can act from my own freedom. So if you feel stuck because they put you in a house and you cannot leave it, or you put yourself within your prison of limiting beliefs, it's time to start questioning that. And Psych-K is such a process that really can be a huge help for people. And of course, you must have people that want to take responsibility. If you want to stay a victim and
Right.
it's other people's fault,
Right.
nothing will happen. You must say, hey, these are my beliefs in my head. I do not like them. I'm going to change them.
No, I love that. I love that. And one of the biggest things that I tell my clients who come to me is, let's help you go from being a victim of your circumstances to a victor of your success in the future. So I love that. Thank you so much, Paula. It's been such a delight to have you as a guest. Everybody, go and check out Paula's books. Go and check out her book. Go and check out her website. Get a copy of Be the Master of Your Own Mind. And make sure you check out her courses and everything else. I'm going to do my best to do her course. I'm going to make it an imperative for me to do her course in person in Holland. I'm going to make that a reality.
That.
So I'm going to eliminate the limiting belief that I can't make that happen. I can make that happen. I'm going to do her course live in Holland and refresh my Dutch and everything else, and take a chance on myself for transformation. One of the biggest things that I think I've gotten from Paula today is you have to invest in your own self. You have to invest in your beliefs, and you have to and that means taking accountability. You may have been victimized by some things and some circumstances in life, but do you want to remain a victim, or do you want to become a victor? And instead of blaming the world and blaming society, why don't you take it upon yourself to create a victor within yourself, regardless of whose fault anything it is? So stop focusing on whose fault it is or why it happened, and change it from the inside out. With that, thank you so much, Paula. I love what you do. I love the energy it brings. I get a great sense of energy, and I can't wait to try out Psych-K. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Wonderful.
you. Bye, guys. See you on the next episode of Fresh Start with Dr. David.